You're listening to The Reclaimed Life, a podcast about recognizing manipulation, reclaiming your voice, and rebuilding a life that actually feels like your own. I'm Rachel Paxton, an author, ordained chaplain, and certified mental health coach. And each week I'll explore the patterns, dynamics, and turning points that help people rediscover who they truly are. Sometimes we hold on to hope long after something has already ended. Not because we're weak, but because grief can feel unbearable before we're ready to face it. In this episode, we're talking about the quiet space between denial and acceptance, and how sometimes we don't let go until grief finally becomes survivable. There are seasons of life when people ask why you're still holding on, why you still care, why you still hope, why you haven't let go yet. From the outside, it can look simple. Move on, accept it, face reality, start over. But from the inside, it's rarely that simple, because sometimes hope is not denial. Sometimes hope is how you survive what you're not ready to grieve yet. People often talk about hope as if it's always naive, as if hope means refusing to see the truth, as if hope is weakness. But hope can also be a bridge, a temporary place you stand while your heart catches up to what your mind already knows. A place between knowing something is ending and being emotionally able to accept that it's ended. This can happen in many forms. A relationship that's changed beyond repair. A parent who will never become who you needed. A friendship that slowly disappeared. A dream that is slipping away. A season of life that is clearly ending. Part of you may know the truth, but another part of you still needs time. So you hope. You hope the conversation will come. You hope they will understand. You hope things will return to what they were. You hope one more effort will matter. You hope the story will end differently. And sometimes people judge that hope. They call it stuckness. They call it weakness. They call it an inability to move on. But many times, it's grief in slow motion. Not everyone can absorb loss all at once. Sometimes the nervous system cannot carry it yet. Sometimes the heart needs smaller pieces. Sometimes acceptance arrives gradually, not dramatically. So hope stays for a while, not because you're foolish, but because grief is still becoming survivable. There's often shame around this. People look back and think, why did I stay hopeful for so long? Why didn't I let go sooner? Why did it take me this long to accept reality? But maybe the better question is, what was hope helping me carry? Because hope often holds pain until you're strong enough to hold it yourself. Until one day, something shifts. Not because someone convinced you, not because you were pressured, not because you were embarrassed into letting go, but because grief is softened into something you can finally touch. You can name the loss. You can feel the sadness. You can survive the truth. And suddenly, hope is no longer needed in the same way. That doesn't mean hope was fake. It means hope served a purpose. It helped you cross a season you could not cross empty-handed. This is especially true for complicated losses. Losses with no funeral. Losses with no closure. Losses where the person is still alive but unavailable. Losses where the dream slowly dissolved. Losses where no one else fully understands why it hurts. Those losses often require longer bridges. Sometimes people think healing begins the day you let go, but often healing begins much earlier. Healing may begin in the very season you were still hoping, because even then something inside you was processing. Even then, truth was working its way inward. Even then, your heart was preparing. If you are in that place now, still hoping, still confused, still not ready to fully release something, I want to offer this gently. You may not be failing to move on. You may be moving through grief at the pace your soul can bear. And if you're looking back with regret for how long you held on, consider this. Maybe you held on to hope until grief became survivable. Maybe that was wisdom, not weakness. Maybe that was tenderness towards yourself. There comes a day when the truth no longer destroys you. It saddens you. It changes you. It asks something of you. But it no longer destroys you. And that may be the day that hope quietly sets you down. Not as punishment, as completion. Sometimes we hold on to hope longer than others understand. But not all hope is avoidance. Sometimes hope is the handrail that carries us to acceptance. And sometimes we let go not when we should have, but when grief finally becomes survivable. Thank you for listening to The Reclaimed Life. If something in this episode resonated with you, you're not alone. Many people are beginning to recognize unhealthy patterns in relationships, systems, and environments, and discovering that reclaiming their voice is possible. In future episodes, I'll explore topics like recognizing manipulation, understanding narcissistic dynamics, rebuilding self-trust, and learning how to create a life that actually feels like your own. If you'd like to explore more of these ideas, you can visit my website at thereclaimedlifepodcast.com, where I share additional writing, resources, and future episodes of the show. Until next time, take a moment to listen to your intuition, trust what you're beginning to see, and remember that reclaiming your life often begins with one honest question. This is The Reclaimed Life.